Good morning, everybody. How are you all today? I hope you're well. I feel like I have to speak in a bit of a whisper this morning because, and it behooves me to do it, I'm here really early. I don't know, it's about 7 o'clock, which, as many of you will know, I'm so not a morning person. And I am dripping already. I've come early because I've got a few little jobs to do, and it's just been too hot in the last few weeks, so hot. And looking at the forecast for the next 2 weeks, we're just getting hotter and hotter and hotter. So the idea, morning voice, good morning. The idea of coming down early this morning is to try and get a few jobs done before it gets really hot. It's really hot already. Oh, please stay safe in the heat, everybody. Now, I know there are probably some of you who live elsewhere in the world who think, that's not hot. What are you talking about? It's hot for us. I mean, really, at this time of year, anything over 27, 28 is hot for us. And we're in the 30s each day. And the other thing to remember is it's really hard for us to cool off. So even if we avoid the garden in the heat of the day and stay indoors, I actually don't know anybody who has air conditioning in the UK. Just don't do it, because normally we don't need it. But could do with it this year, that's for sure. Anyway, yeah, so please stay safe. Remember to top up your fluids. If you are out there, get your sunscreen on, your hat, your sunglasses, what have you. Find shade, find a cooler spot, even if it means going to your local library to sit in there if they've got aircon. My little local library doesn't have aircon either, never mind. But just take time out of your day regularly to try to cool yourself down, because that accumulation of heat in your body, you need to get rid of it somehow. So, jobs for today: lift my red onions and I think I'm going to prioritise getting in my Cavolo, because they're really useful crop for me. They give and they give and they give. And one of the reasons I'm now starting to get in a bit of a hurry to get brassicas in, because of this heat, they're all in those little cells in the cold frame. And although they're shaded and they've got a breeze because all the windows are open, they're really struggling. So I'd rather get them into the ground ASAP. I have just lifted my new potatoes and there is space for more brassicas in there, but the ground is like concrete, so I'll see if I can do something there this morning too. And the other thing I'm going to look at doing, and I'll have a chat to you as we do it, is blanching my celery. So I've got a different variety this year, so I'll explain that when we come to it. What else? And the other thing I thought we could just have a little chat about today, and we'll have a little walk around too, is, so there's a couple of questions I'm asked over and over and over again. So I thought, well, let's address them now. I did do a similar video about a year ago, but I can't find it. Anyway, just vanished into the ether. Just on the subject of what is an allotment, how does my little site work within that kind of bigger umbrella of allotments in general, and also how big is my plot? I'm always being asked how big my plot is. So I'm going to tell you in metres. I know a lot of people prefer feet and inches, don't they? You just have to convert it. So yeah, on the general subject, just let me get my water, hang on a sec. On the general subject, I can't believe how hot it is already. So just very briefly, and this is more for our overseas friends, because in the UK we're used to the concept of allotments. And I know in various parts of the world you have similar-ish things in terms of a community garden, that sort of thing. But very simply, in the UK, we have these things called allotments. They go back years and years and centuries. The whole idea behind them is as an individual you get allotted a piece of land to grow your own food on, if you're not a landowner yourself. So you are allotted some land. So that's your allotment, because it's been allotted to you. As they are, excuse me, this really is a morning voice. So generally speaking, now in the UK, allotments are either owned by the council, which ours is, or they're owned quite often by the church. So a church within a village owns that piece of land, or sometimes it's private land that's owned, that's then rented out. So yes, when you have an allotment, it isn't yours, you don't own it, you just rent it. Now hopefully, if you behave yourself and stay within the rules, you can rent it, hopefully ad infinitum, if the land doesn't get sold for development. There are some protections about that. So yes, like I say, ours is a council owned site. So the borough, the London borough that I live in, that borough council owns this site. But like some sites around the country as well, rather than being run by the council, we're actually self-managed. So what that means is the council have decided, yes, it's a well-run site, things are going smoothly, we're going to hand over the management of it to you. So they retain ownership, and for instance, they retain the list of people on the waiting list. So we have absolutely no influence about the waiting list. So if a plot comes free, it's not for us to decide who gets it. The council will send the next person to us on the waiting list. They can view it and say, yes, I'd love it, thank you very much. Because we're self-managed, I kind of like that, because I mean, all allotments will have a set of rules to a greater or lesser extent. Our rules are based on the council's rules, with just a few little tweaks here and there, which was approved by the council. Now, I have absolutely no issue with rules. I like rules. Rules make things fair. It lets everyone know where they stand. So sometimes one might think, oh, but I'd like to do X, Y and Z and I can't because of the rules. But actually, I think our rules are one of the things that help make our site beautiful. I think our site's beautiful. So for example, we'll have a little wander in a minute. We don't have any, on the actual soil, on the plots themselves, we don't allow any permanent structures over 4 feet high. So for instance, on your plot itself, you can have your cold frame, but you wouldn't be able to have a shed or a greenhouse or such alike because it's taller than 4 feet. But that's great, because what that means is you don't get arguments between people where if someone builds a very big shed or greenhouse on their plot and it casts a load of shadow onto the neighbour's plot, that just wouldn't be fair on the neighbour. So it kind of negates the possibility for squabbles on that basis. But also what that means is, where we've got this chunk of land, it's just all veggies, all of our sheds and greenhouses are on either side around the sort of perimeter of the site. So it keeps the site nice and open and light and airy, and it makes the veggies the stars of the show. I love it. I absolutely love that rule. I think it's brilliant. Other little rules like which needs enforcing with a summer pruning soon, but we're not allowed to have fruit trees over 6 feet. And most of the trees on site at the moment are looking like they're 8-10 feet, so they all do need a summer prune. I think it's about now that we could actually do some pruning. Otherwise we'll have to wait until, when's the next pruning? Is it January? February? I'm not a fruit grower. But yeah, so again, simple rule, and it's there for a reason. If you're growing a tree on your plot and it's a monster 20-foot tree, firstly, it's going to cast shadow on a neighbour's plot, but also the amount of water that tree is going to be taking up. It's not going to be fair on the neighbour plot if it's drying their plot out too much. So, yeah, we have rules, but that makes, it makes for a civilised, hopefully argument-free site. There are also rules about, and this again is a general rule in allotments, about how much space is given over to vegetables as opposed to, say, flowers. Some going sort of more into the sort of privately owned land or church owned land, they're possibly a bit less stringent on it. But with most of the council run sites, most of them will have a 90% rule, as in 90% of the plot is for growing vegetables. That's the whole point of allotments, is somewhere for people to grow food. It's not a back garden, it's not a pleasure garden or a leisure garden. This isn't somewhere to just, have all your flowers and sit in your deck chair. It's about growing food. So we have that rule here, 90% vegetables. And then obviously they do allow for 10% of flowers, because we want to have those dotted around for companion planting, for pollinators, etc, etc. They're not too strict on that rule here. Some people have considerably more than 10% given over to flowers. But then, yeah, other things like, and all of our little plots get inspected once a month, so that a year from having been given your plot, you're expected to have 75% of it cultivated. Within a couple of years, you're supposed to have the whole plot cultivated. So they inspect all of the little plots regularly, and if someone's obviously not doing the work, if a plot's starting to get neglected and overgrown, what have you, then that plot holder will get a letter to sort of chivvy them along a bit, say, come on, you need to sort of pull your finger out. So people are given a chance. If after another month there's been absolutely zero improvement, then they will get a final letter, and they've got a month to either sort it or leave. Which seems a bit harsh, but on the other hand, there are so many folk on waiting lists wanting plots, and look, if you're not doing it, you're not doing it. Of course there's some flexibility if someone is poorly, if someone's ill, and they let the committee know, I'm not going to be able to tend my plot for the next 3 or 4 months. So like when I broke both my wrists, I let the committee know straight away, just in case I wasn't going to manage. And even when I had the knee surgery, I let them know, just in case the plot got out of shape. It didn't, it was fine. But yeah, so we have lots of rules, which may seem like a bit of a straitjacket, but they're not. They're there to just make everything fair and clear, etc. The bottom line is, as plot holders, we all know what is expected of us in terms of tending our own bit of the ground. So if we don't do it, it's no surprise to us if we get booted out. Now, the other lovely thing about allotments is, and it does vary from site to site, but are the kind of communal parts of the allotment. So that's what I think. I'm going to give you a quick little whiz round and show you some of the things that we've got which just help the place feel lovely and communal. And as part of that kind of communal feel, I've mentioned it before, I've shown you a little bit before, but we have, throughout the year, once a month we meet to have what we call our working party. And the idea is we all come together, we don't work our own plot on that day, we work all the communal parts. So for example, mowing the grass paths, strimming in the orchard where we can't get the mower, fixing fences, maintaining the community pond, fixing fences, steps, things like that. So it's really great because I think because we all come together to do the work, well, a handful of us do, it's great. It just makes you feel even more proud about your site because we're all investing ourselves into it, and we get a chance to chat and maybe speak to people that we don't normally because they're at the far end of the site and we never see each other, and it's just really good for building that sense of community, and the work gets done. So it's a win-win-win. Okay, so let's go and show you a couple of things on this site quickly because I need to start working in the garden because it's getting hot already. So if you're on a site and you feel like, oh, there's not much community or communal stuff going on, there's loads of really simple little things you can do. So on our site here we have what we call our share table, and on here people leave, if they've got excess produce, so there's nearly always courgettes, big amount of courgettes by the summer, or if you've got spare seedlings, that sort of thing. Dead easy. All it is, it's just a table by the gate. Brilliant. And then next to it, this is another really simple but effective deal. I know some of you will have seen this before, but this is for those of you who haven't. This is our site lavatory. Very, very, very simple idea. It's a composting lavatory, so we don't need to be on the mains water for it, although we do have water in there for the sink. And under here, under these big gates, there's a wheelie bin. So for example, you see into the shade there, there's one, there's another. These ones are full and they're composting down, so it really couldn't be more simple. I'll take you in there in a sec to show you, but there's basically a platform to sit on like you were sitting on the loo at home, and it just drops into a wheelie bin, and then we cover it with a bit of sawdust, and when it gets full we seal it up and let it rot down, and we've got some really good human manure. Let's just go around the other side so you can have a look inside. So if you've got anyone on your site that's even the least bit handy, it's actually a really simple construction. Like I say, it's sort of like a shed on stilts, and under the stilts, under here are the wheelie bins. We're actually in the process of making some new steps up. We're going to have the steps up, and then we're going to have a little platform at the top, so it's a bit easier to access. And then all it is, get close up and personal in here. So under here is the wheelie bin, normal loose seat, lift it up, you do your business. I'm not going to show you in there. And then once you've done your business, under here, we keep a box of all that needs topping up, box of sawdust, so that if you do anything really wet, like a wee or a really sloppy poo, you put a scoop of that over your business. Just kind of helps soak up some of the liquid and dampen the smell. Actually, it generally doesn't get stinky in here. Look at our lovely little loo roll holder. Can you see what it is? Can you tell what it is? It's an old hoe that's hung up to hold our loo rolls. So yeah, really simple. I mean, so simple, but effective, because not everybody wants to use a pot in their shed. Well, especially not for a number two. And also for some of our older people, you know, squatting in a shed's a bit tricky. So we do have a sink, it's just cold water, but it's great. It just means, especially we've got so many kids on site, they can come and have a little wash before they start having their picnic lunch. Brilliant. Couldn't be more simple, couldn't be more effective. Hello, mister. Are you coming for a cuddle? So just thought I'd show you this view, which you've sometimes seen before, but it sort of gives you an idea of how we're arranged. So we've got this long central path, and then either side of it there are one and then two plots. Same over here, a bit harder to see from here because we're a bit bushy at the moment, but so there's one plot and then there's another plot. So two plots either side of the path, two plots, and then down all the edges, down the edges, we have all our sheds, greenhouses, etc, etc. Gorgeous. I'll just give that watering lady some privacy. Okay, let's go down to the other end. I'll show you a few bits more. Oh, Rusty. Have you been out all night, buddy? Have you been out chasing the mices? Or have you been after the ladies? This is actually a lovely little spot. On the bench. On Paddy's bench. Oh, cheers, Rusty. On Paddy's bench in the shade. Rusty, should we go for a walk? Yeah, come on, buddy. Let's go. Well, I didn't get very far. I'm being mugged by cats.
Mug by Rusty, now Poppy, and Rosie following behind. Are you right, little kiddies? Oh, so you see, that's another frequently asked question about the cats is, are they wild? Are they feral? No, they are not. In she goes. Come on, Poppy, let's find some shade. No, they are not wild. Hey, Rosie. They are owned. They live in the houses around the site. But they're just chances. They like a bit of affection. They like a cuddle. Don't you, little sweet one? So, I'm being mobbed. So yes, please don't anyone ever worry about any of the cats. They all have homes to go to. They're all fed. They're all cared for. They just have the allotment as their playground. The lucky little kitties. And they literally go shed to shed to shed in the hopes that they can persuade someone to feed them. But you don't need feeding, do you? Because you're fed. So I just give them a couple of little kibbles and nibbles every now and again. But more than that, I give them cuddles. So there we go. The cats are owned, they're looked after, they're fed. No worries about the cats. I think we're about to have a mega cuddle. Let's put the camera down. Just before I take you to the far end of our site. Oh, look at it in this morning sunshine. I love this time of year. So in terms of my plot, in terms of size and where it begins and ends, so the fence is where it ends. There's a little path behind the fence between the two plots, and then this is a whole nother plot, the one that goes from here to the outside of my shed. That's someone else's plot. So mine starts with the fence and goes all the way back up to that central path that I was just showing you, that the cats chased me down. So in terms of width, the whole plot is about 6 metres wide. That's not including the paths. So about 6 metres. And then in length, it's about 25 metres. So obviously I've taken up a bit of space here with the deck. I'm happy to lose a bit of space there. I do need a bit of sort of hard standing, and obviously it can have a few plants around it. And then obviously the herb bed is a smallish bed, but it will do. Oh, there's trouble. And then the other 4 beds, my main 4 beds, they're all about 4 metres there and 6 metres wide. So they're roughly 24 metres square. Let's say it's 25, just to round it up and make it easier. So it's about 100 square metres of growing space, which isn't huge. Once upon a time in the old days, this is what's known as a half plot, or 5 rods. And once upon a time, this would have, when you got a plot, you would have got 10 rods. I wish I had 10 rods, because then I'd be able to have space for some fruit. Look how the squash have been loving this heat. This carnival, it's a monster. It's escaping, look, down the path. Humongous. And these squash are looking great too. Yeah, so I wish we still had 10 rod plots, but I suppose by having these half plots, 5 rod plots, it does mean that more people get a chance to garden, which is fabulous, isn't it? So I'm grateful for my lot, very, very grateful for my lot. And like I say, it's a lovely site to be on. There's a really good community here. Everyone's pretty active about being communal. So although I would love much, much more space, this keeps me happy for now. My goodness, can you imagine if I had double the space and I had double the watering? Ay caramba. We're super duper lucky on this site as well to have, they're in here. Can I show you? Oh, it's gotten a bit overgrown. Can we have a peek this way? Might just be able to sneaky peek, make them out. We have beehives. This is great. So I'd love to learn more about beekeeping, but these hives are actually looked after by a beekeeper, and it's sort of, oh, Let's see if I can show you this way. No, it's nigh on impossible because we're so overgrown at the moment. But yeah, just tucked in there. So the beekeeper keeps his hives here. It's a nice reciprocal arrangement. We get pollinators. He gets lots of flowers for his bees to collect nectar from. And we get first dibs on the gorgeous, yummy honey. And I can tell you, it's really beautiful honey. Something else we've been developing over the years on this site is our communal orchard. Now, this is nothing to do with the community orchard out in the local park where I've adopted the little pear tree. This is still within the boundary of our site. So every year we try and plant a couple more fruit trees. Look at these plums, are magnificent, aren't they? That Budley is going to need a good cut back come the autumn. But absolutely gorgeous, fabulous plums. Doesn't look like we're going to have so many apples this year. We had an absolutely fantastic harvest of apples last year. So, well, good year, not so good year. But I think we're all going to be enjoying these gorgeous plums, aren't we? Actually, just thinking about the bees again and how great they are for us in terms of for pollinating our veggies and fruits. That's another thing you could think about on your site if you're looking to develop things and try some more communal things, is perhaps there's a space on your site which is sort of in a quiet corner, slightly less traffic, is to think about contacting some local beekeepers to see if they'd like to keep some hives on your site. They could rent a little corner of the garden to put their hives on. Because the bees have obviously been doing their work on the plums this year, haven't they? Oh, gorgeous, nearly ready to eat. Oh, gorgeous. These are our communal brambles. They're ripe so early this year. Oh, I think I might have to have a couple of those with my lunch today. Yum, yum, yum. Right, now it really is time to go and get on with a bit of work. Oh, prickles, brambles in the garden. I'm completely meshed with the brambles. We do have other little communal parts to the site. We've got a little shed where we keep spare seeds, so anyone who's got leftover seed goes in there. That's really nice because then, especially if someone new is starting, it can be quite a big outlay in that first year for seeds. So there's always seed there for other people to use. We also, quite often, people donate their old tools, either if they leave the site or if they replace it with some fancy pants new tool for Christmas, whatever. So we do keep a little stash of communal tools because, like I say, if you're a newbie, if you're suddenly faced with buying all your seeds, buying your fork, your spade, your trowel, all that initial outlay can be quite a lot of money. So it's really nice to have that, so that no matter what state someone's finances are in, no matter what station there is in life, the minute they get a plot here, they can start. Yay! It's fab. I love it. We also have a little kind of meeting room kitchen, so we can have cups of tea and biscuits. And then outside of that, we've got a sort of picnic / barbecue area where we've got tables and chairs. And again, it's really nice sometimes in the evening just to gather over there in the evening shade, have a cup of tea or a glass of water or something stronger, and just sit back and chat and chill out together. It's really nice. So yeah, I think that's the main thing with allotments. I hope that's kind of, oh, I'm so sweaty. I hope that's sort of explained to people a little bit about what allotments are. Rules, renting, etc, etc. But I think the biggest thing for me about allotments is it's a community. Our allotment site is like a village within the village. It's really lovely. You know, you do need to work on it. So I know a lot of you have said you don't have that kind of same feeling on your site. But there are little things you can do to encourage it. You know, put the kettle on. Tell your neighbour you're brewing up. Do you want to come over and have a cup of tea? Things like the share table is such an easy thing to do. It's literally just put a table by the gate and put a notice on it saying to be shared.
Having a little, maybe there's an old spare shed on your site that you could take the lock off so it's open to everybody and put seeds in there. In ours, we also have sort of bird watching charts and that sort of thing, so it's kind of jolly to look at. Maybe you could do something like that. Maybe just say to a bunch of people, hey, it's so hot at the moment, why don't we on Friday night, after we've all done the watering, why don't we all bring down a little bit of food and some bottles of cider or something and just join together to have a late evening picnic, drink together. There's all sorts you can do. So, I'm going to go and crack on with some work. I think though that I've waffled on for long enough now, so I'm going to say cheerio. Whatever work I get up to now, I'll just put that in another video because I think I've probably waffled on, haven't I? But I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope a little glimpse around around my site, and hopefully you can see why I love it so much. So yes, I'm going to say cheerio. I'm melting. The next time you see me, I'll probably be really, really red at the face, just running with sweat. Please, 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 everyone, stay safe in this heat. Get yourself in the shade, get yourself cooled down, soak your sun hat in water before you put it on your head. Whatever it takes, please look after yourselves in the heat. I will see you again really soon, I hope. Oh, and the other thing is, can you all start doing a rain dance, please? Because I'm getting heartily fed up of watering every night or every morning. Right, on that note, I'm going to go and bake myself in the sun for a while. Bye for now. Take care, everyone.